Welcome to the podcast Lead the Future, the Alt Summer Series. Each podcast, I'll ask 3 panelists an authentic leadership transformation question. In short, Alt. This Alt question was part of the Alt Summit first panel discussion titled A Celebration of Authentic Leadership Transformation. I'm Arjan Visser, human-centered futurist, and your host. In this podcast, we look at how to step up and own your path of authentic leadership transformation. Knowing the principles is not the same as living the transformation. How do you truly step up, own your unique path, and ignite your leadership journey? This discussion is about translating profound insights into courage, real-world impact, and learn to build your future by celebrating your progress and owning your story. Let me briefly introduce my 3 panelists. Rob Schultz, a visionary leader who partners with thought leaders to shift atmospheres and transform ecosystems for growth. He creates space for people, communities, and industries to see what's possible and step into who they are becoming. He empowers you to take ownership to lead this meaningful change. Laura Izard, a purpose-driven recruiter, an onboarding specialist, serving the tech and consulting industries with a deep intuition and a human-centered approach. She aligns exceptional talent with roles that resonate with their personal mission. Her work empowers both leaders and the organizations to grow from the inside out, building people rooted in purpose, alignment, and a lasting impact. Ryan Rigterink, a leadership specialist, a tech entrepreneur, and a pioneer of talent ecosystems. He is dedicated to helping leaders to build a society where work is personal, meaningful, and creates a higher mutual value. Ryan focuses on building authentic relationships, human-centered tools, and a community of practice. He leads the change in shaping thriving, forward-focused, talented ecosystems. How do you step up? How do you own your own path? And what do you celebrate in that path?
I think the last bit first. What do I celebrate? Anything I possibly can. That the smallest iterations of change. I really love to encourage myself and others around me in that way. And I think, I don't see why we can't not just lead ourselves and a few others around us, but actually transform atmospheres. I don't see that as a vision that's too grand. I think if we as self-aware, authentic leaders are not that ambitious, we're potentially doing a disservice to the people that we lead. So, I do like to look at every internal wrestle that I've got through. I see it all as an invitation to rise. And so I'm not sure if this answers your question really, but I think that I just want to, I'm trying to put this in my own language as well. I think that my transformation has been fueled by recording my successes, being aware of my learning edges. That helps me to step up to the next stage, to engage with another network of people, to go out and pitch to a new client, to do things in a different way, all because I've had a level of success at the place that I've been. I just always want to be moving forward, and staying curious and keeping the momentum going. I hope that answers. It's a big question, Arjan.
Yeah, it was definitely not the smallest question of today's panel discussion. Well, no, I think it's something really essential you say, because what I hear between the lines is you reflect on what went well and use that to step up, and also use that as an energy or a confirmation to actually fuel your intrinsic motivation to keep going and aim higher based on the vision you have and the perspective you have. And like you said in the previous answer, you cannot hold back. The people deserve that you aim high and have a healthy ambition, because they benefit from you leading into that healthy.
I think that's it. You're giving others around you permission to keep moving forward, or always moving forward, knowing that there will be risks, knowing that you will make yourself vulnerable, knowing that you may have to say, I'm sorry, I've taken us to a dead end. All of that is important, and I would say quite successful leadership. And that's what fuels everybody around you, by just keeping on that trajectory of risk and humanness and self-awareness.
Yeah. Ryan, what would be your stepping up and owning your own path?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. Some things that have been helpful for me, like the whole internal transformation it's been a journey of not only myself, but trying to help others with that as well. For me, I think it's been just personally recognizing, becoming more aware of what's going on in my internal world, and then sort of identifying if, like, the whole drama triangle, right? With who's the victim, who's the victor, and who's the villain, and in terms of my internal voice and how I'm managing my inside. And so it's shocking when I come to realize that I'm sometimes my own worst. I'm my own villain in terms of my inner world sometimes. And so recognizing that and actually putting a label to it, I think is it's a good prompt for me to start making those recalibrations and adjustments. Another unlock that's been helpful for me in terms of like future activity kind of stuff is conceptualizing things in terms of not just a long-term plan, but as a short-term experiment. So there's less risk, mental risk, thresholds associated with an experiment than, a long-term plan that requires a level of certainty and commitment that oftentimes we don't have context and data to pursue. And so that's really helped me. And I think some others sort of recontextualize forward momentum. And then the other thing in terms of that's been helpful for me is I've been on, I've taught commercialization and business plans, so I'm very, very pro plan, and yet I've been on a journey of also partnering with the promise, and this sort of this goes to your question of the joy and fueling ourselves with joy. And so when I find when I'm partnering with the plan, I can celebrate every incremental step, and yet what I'm still learning and trying to improve upon is in partnering with the promise is to actually celebrate it before it's realized. And so those are sort of two different self-leadership things that I'm actively working on and I think have been helpful.
That's a great example, partnering with the plan, partnering with a promise, the difference between those and the essence that actually celebration has. And, celebrating progress in a plan is easy to forget because you start to do, actually, you're your own worst critic, which means you condemn yourself for making mistakes, knowing that in the promise, the mistakes are actually the small micro experiments where you learn the most from, And at the end of the whole journey, that made the promise to become received. So yeah, the paradox in those things. I like it. Oh, Rob.
Yeah. So how to step up and own your path of authentic leadership transformation. I agree with everything that's been said. I think one of the thoughts that struck me, like as somebody that has received coaching and somebody that gives coaching, you know, I really believe that we have what we need inside ourselves. But I think what we mustn't do is fool ourselves into thinking that we can always see that, or that we have all the tools to access that. And often we need to reach out to other people, whether that be a therapist, whether that be a business coach, whether that be a friend and a peer, that like, yeah, it's all inside you, but that doesn't mean that you know how to mine it and that you know where it is. So be vulnerable and accept help from other people to help you find what's inside. And I think as part of that, as Laura said earlier, you know, being part of a community, and I think one of the things which COVID has certainly taught me, I think we had a paradigm. So many people might have been involved in a community pre-COVID. You know, it might be a social club, it might be a sports club or a gym, it might be a church, it might be anything. And it's very easy to slip into a situation where that thing almost becomes like a one-stop shop, and you expect it to provide all of your needs. And actually realizing, for a start, the self-realization, actually, I've abdicated some of my own responsibility for my own development to somebody else, and I need to take that responsibility back. And realizing it's unrealistic and unreasonable of me to think that this one organization or this one person or whatever it is going to meet all my needs. And actually, it's not healthy. So I can get this from here, and I can get this from here, and I can give this over here. So I think being part of multiple communities that feed you and where you feed them, because it has to be two-way, are constantly asking questions. And I think we talked about celebration, which is great. And I think just to be clear, hands up, like, I don't like unfinished tasks. I hate unfinished tasks. Some people can go to sleep on a pile of unfinished tasks. I'm not one of them. You know, some people can go on holiday and check their email at the beginning of the day and then go on the beach. I'm not one of them. I wish I was one of them. I'm not one of them. So I like everything to be finished and the box to be ticked and the email to be sent and everything to be done.
Are you German?
Well, we have a community for that.
Yeah. But I'm learning to celebrate your journey, and like Laura was saying about, you know, what I've learned since last time, you know, not just celebrating the outcome, but celebrating how you got there, celebrating your progress so far, celebrating what you've learned, and I think a really key thing, like celebrating your relationships, like the people that are in your life and what they bring to your life and what you hopefully bring to their life. And you asked about sort of defining breakthrough. I think some of the key breakthroughs for me, listening to my children, that's a big one, because they, you know, spend time with me and they know what I'm really like, and so that's been quite humbling and interesting. But I've got a lot of insights from them, and I would say, and some of the key, obviously, you know, some of the greatest decisions of my life, you know, saying yes to marrying my wife, or, you know, or things like that, great yes decisions. But actually some of the defining breakthroughs I've found have been when I've said no to things, especially when great opportunities have come and I've just looked at them and weighed them and thought that looks fun, that looks important, that looks good, but actually it's not for me, it's not who I am, and I'd be doing it for the wrong reasons. And so actually I have to say no. And I found that they've been, when I look back and think of some of the best decisions I've made, it's the older I get, the more of them are no's, things that I said no to. So I think that's a big part of how you take ownership, is you say no to the wrong things.
Yeah. And say yes to the right things.
And say yes to the right things.
And there's a lot in between.
Yeah. And it's not black and white, and it's not immediately obvious, but sometimes that something could be a really good thing, but it's not the thing for you now. And that's wisdom.
I have a brief story I can tell about that. 20 years ago, I was getting into real estate, and I was so frustrated. This goes to what you're talking about, Rob, with your wife and your kids being such an integral sounding board. And my wife, God bless her, she would say repeatedly, right thing, wrong time. And it used to annoy me so much, but there was a lot of wisdom in that. And a lot of that wisdom was unfortunately seen by me in hindsight when some things I didn't foresee didn't work out how I wanted them to. So it's really interesting. For me, Rob, I just echo what you said in terms of my family. Those closest to me has been probably the most transformational in terms of input and albeit oftentimes humbling input, but it's been critical for me as well. So,
yeah,
that's great, Ryan. You made me think about Annie Duke's book, Quit, and the sunk cost fallacy, and how it's quite courageous for us sometimes to say, even though I've invested so much time, so much sweat, so much emotion, so much money, so much emotional capital in this thing, this project, this baby, whatever it is, it's time to walk away and say no. I've been saying yes, but now it's no. That's such self-awareness. And Ryan, I love what your wife said, because there's a suggestion in there that maybe you'll get it another time. Maybe there's another season for this opportunity. It's not no forever.
Yeah,
it's just no for now.
Yeah, I had a situation like that about a year ago, and a friend approached me about an organization, and I was basically asking me to help them lead that organization and become employed, and it's lovely when people ask you those things, and they want you alongside them, working with them. But actually, I spoke to Arjan about it. I spoke to several friends, but I knew in my heart, and I went back to the person and said, I'm going to have to say no to this opportunity. Thank you for it. But I said, I feel underlying what you're asking is, will I come alongside you? Will I work with you? And the answer to that is unquestioningly, yes, I will. But actually, that's not the vehicle for it, because the thing you need is actually much bigger than what you're asking for. And actually, I can be part of that. And I think just having the bravery to say, no, that's not going to work in that way. But there is another way. And that can be a timing thing or just finding a different vehicle. But yeah, the bravery to say no when a good opportunity comes, I think is really, really important in your self-development.
The dialogue doesn't end here. It's your invitation to continue the journey. I invite you to engage with your own insights below, or to step directly into the Alt Forum with us. The Alt Forum is our weekly thought-provoking space for forerunners, forward-thinking leaders, and pioneers who are ready to catalyze their authentic leadership transformation. I will share how you can experience this powerful forum first and decide later. Just use the link in the description, alt.businessrevivalists.com/forum, to just book your first experience. At the end of this episode, I want to share my personal gemstones. First one I wrote down is that every internal wrestle is an invitation to rise. Laura redefined struggle as elevation. Rather than shame or stagnation, wrestling becomes worthy. It dignifies the inner journey and reframes difficulty as a fuel for leadership. The second one is celebrate anything you possibly can, especially the small iterations of change. It's those micro celebrations that builds the macro resilience. Laura elevates the power of celebration to forward motion. Even if it's subtle, the mindset is all about creating momentum for self and for others. And the third one is you give others permission by keeping the trajectory of risk, humanness, and self-awareness. Leadership is not dominance. It's permission giving through humanity. Laura nails what others often miss. Modeling fallibility is a leadership superpower. Shift from long-term plans to short-term experiments. Ryan approaches lowers the barriers to stepping up. By framing forward movement as an experiment, leaders reduce perfectionism and increase boldness. Partner with the plan, partner with the promise. Ryan introduces the tension between strategic planning and spiritual trust. Celebrating the future before it manifests is a powerful form of inner leadership. Rob continues by saying that you have to celebrate unfinished progress. You have to celebrate relationships, celebrate what you have learned. Rob opens up a more compassionate and humanized form of celebration, one that honors becoming more than finishing. Some of my best decisions weren't the yeses, but the courageous no's. Rob flips traditional success narratives. Leadership is not just bold action, it's brave resistance when something good isn't true. Saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong ones is how you take ownership. This builds personal sovereignty. It's leadership by design versus by default. And it's the ability to discern what is for you the right thing versus what could be good for others. And I really want to highlight this one because this is pure wisdom. Saying yes to the right things means saying no to what's good. And that's how you take ownership. I want to thank my guests, Rob, Laura, Ryan, for their deep insights, their openness and their vulnerability in our discussion. And I really want to thank you for tuning in. And I'm really looking forward for your wisdom, your insights. Please share them and step up. Join the Alt Forum with us. Experience it first before you make up your mind. Decide later. We call that if this is your right fit. But experience it first. Just use the link from the description, alt.businessrevivalist.com/forum to book your experience.